Police have been criticized for partying with protesters as the climate change group threatens more chaos over Easter bank holiday weekend. Twitter. More could descend on London this weekend as the group's climate change protest hit a fourth day. Data reacted equals 22. Extinction Rebellion claim thousands more rebels could descend on London this weekend as the group's climate change protest hit a fourth day. Organisers behind the climate change protest, which has brought parts of central London to its knees, say they are prepared to escalate the group's tactics if their demands are not met. Data reacted equals 23. Organisers behind the climate change protest, which has brought parts of central London to its knees, say they are prepared to escalate the group's tactics if their demands are not met. Extinction Rebellion, XR, group co-founder Dr. Gail Bradbrook, a co-founder, said demonstrators would continue to act despite the first people being charged over the disruption. The protests have so far seen activists glue themselves to public transport and block bridges and major roads across the capital. Meanwhile, Scotland Yard is investigating officers after footage emerged of police dancing with protesters. Officers are being investigated for partying with protesters. Screen grab. More on Thursday. The fourth day of protests began with a challenge to Environment Secretary Michael Gove to meet with activists at Parliament Square to find a solution to the issue. The group said they expected even more people to join the protests, with a statement, which was later deleted, adding, "Easter weekend is tomorrow and thousands more rebels will join." Protests have crippled central London this week. More police struggle to arrest 350 and there are 10 times that number prepared to be arrested. The hollowed-out British state is overwhelmed. Speaking from Waterloo Bridge, Dr. Bradbrook said, "The charges might put some people off and we escalated our strategy by focusing on the rail infrastructure." More than 200 people have been arrested as police deal with ongoing climate change protests. More there's a key piece of a rebellion where you have to escalate your tactics. Dr. Bradbrook said Extinction Rebellion had very heated discussions about what's for the best in terms of its methods. She continued, "It's certainly an option that tactics will be escalated if our demands are not met." Protesters hit Oxford Circus on Thursday. More asked about whether key sites like Waterloo Bridge will remain held for 2 weeks as planned. She said, "It's in the hands of the gods, really, isn't it? It's up to whether people respond to the call to come onto the streets. More people are joining us all the time. We're having a fantastic time here." Story continue as co-founder Dr. Gail Bradbrook said demonstrations would continue until the group's demands are met. Nor it's how life is meant to be lived, with people coming together and actually exerting their political power. In a direct clarion call to Mr. Gove, the group added, "We are happy to discuss leaving if you are happy to discuss the climate crisis with us and how we find solutions that focus on principles of fairness and justice." Extinction Rebellion demonstrators block Vauxhall Bridge in London, as more than 200 people have been arrested as police deal with ongoing climate change protests. More, will you come down to Parliament Square and talk with us? Genuine offer it came as police began charging people over the protests in London this week. According to the latest figures, 428 arrests have been made by the Metropolitan Police since Monday. Read more. Data reacted equals 114. Read more. Extinction Rebellion slammed for forcing people to use cars after blocking public transport. Data reacted equals 115. Extinction Rebellion slammed for forcing people to use cars after blocking public transport. Extinction Rebellion. Protesters climb train to disrupt public transport. Data reacted equals 116. Extinction Rebellion. Protesters climb train to disrupt public transport. More than 200 people arrested in second day of London climate change protests. Data reacted equals 117. More than 200 people arrested in second day of London climate change protests. Kathy Eastburn, 51, Mark Hovland, 35, and Luke Watson, 29, are due before magistrates in the capital over their alleged involvement in obstructing trains at Canary Wharf Station on Wednesday morning. British Transport Police, BTP, confirmed the trio have been charged with obstructing trains or carriages on the railway by an unlawful act contrary to Section 36 of the Malicious Damage Act 1861. Eastburn of Gerrards Close in Lambeth, South London, Hovland of Cainton Mandeville, Somerton, Somerset, and Watson from Monuden in Essex are expected to appear at Highbury Corner Magistrates Court later on Thursday. Protesters were criticized for blocking public transport. AP Some activists glued themselves to a train while others chained themselves to Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn's garden fence. Part of Oxford Street continued to be closed off to vehicles on Thursday while a large pink boat, from which a DJ plays music to throngs of supporters, obstructs the main junction with Regent Street. A mile west, a community of around 100 tents remain at Marble Arch. An ice cream van also moved in to take advantage of potential customers, while one protester was able to keep an eye out on proceedings from a makeshift treehouse. Swarms of climate protesters swelled on Waterloo Bridge. Commuters walking across the bridge, which is completely closed to traffic, were forced to weave between crowds of demonstrators. A green sign with the message "Rebel for Life" was unfurled across the width of the road, and some demonstrators were also perched on a protest truck parked on the bridge. The group have received criticism for their tactics that have brought parts of London to a standstill. More tents were also in place alongside rows of potted plants which the activists had lined up along the road, and music was playing from speakers at the front line of the demo. A handful of protesters also blocked traffic on one carriageway of Vauxhall Bridge Road on Thursday, a short distance from Parliament Square, forcing some motorcyclists and cyclists to cross onto the opposite carriageway towards oncoming traffic. Earlier on Thursday, Metropolitan Police Commander Jane Connors said she was disappointed by a video appearing to show officers dancing along with protesters. Police officers removed Extinction Rebellion demonstrators from Waterloo bridges on Wednesday. More MRS Connors said, "I'm disappointed by the video and the unacceptable behavior of the officers, and yet we expect our officers to engage with protesters, but clearly their actions fall short of the tone of the policing operation. At a time when people are frustrated at the actions of the protesters, we will be reminding officers of their responsibilities and expectations in policing this operation. However, the majority of officers have been working long hours and I am grateful to them for their continued commitment." Let's block ads. While